About Gemara. This is the Gemara for Sunday, Thursday, Yom Tov. The Achron Shel Pesach, second day Yom Tov. Nigmar Dinoi. Once the Gemar Din, then you go without a Kohen Gadol, you stuck forever, and so on. So the Gemara now talks about interesting. Amar Yehuda Amar Rav, Shtei Tuis to Yoav. Yoav made two mistakes, but Isa shot Yoav when David Melech told Shlomo Melech that he has to kill Yoav because Yoav killed Avner and he killed Amsa, both of them. And Avner and David really was hurt because he thought he could bring Avner was a tzaddik and Avner wanted to join David Melech. And Yoav felt threatened that Avner might take over, become the new general because he was maybe more able than he was. So he killed him. The whole ruse and everything else that he did. So then when the Shlomo went to kill Yoav, Yoav ran to the base of English and he jumped on the Mizbech and held on to the Kanas of Mizbech. He made two mistakes there. If he said, he made a mistake. It says Al Mizbech. The thing was, Yoav thought that the Kanas is also top. It's on the Mizbech, so he thought that's considered on the Mizbech. Didn't realize that on the Mizbech means in between the corners. Shana Kodol Gagi on the roof, the flat roof. Wutov is Bekanois, he's holding onto the corners. Ta, he made a mistake. She'ainu Kodol Mizbech Mesalami, Wutov is Bech Shel Shilai. That only the Mizbech of the Beis Hamikdash protects, and he was holding on the Mizbech of Shilai or a bomber. He was not on that Mizbech because there's no Beis Hamikdash yet. There's no Beis Hamikdash. Yeah, which is it just reminds me that Rashi asked a question before that David HaMelech was trying to dig holes to find the whole story. Rashi says he finds it hard to understand because David HaMelech didn't buy that shetzach of land from Arvana till 3 years later. So what was he digging holes for? So Rashi answers that David already knew that this is going to be a site of the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore he started digging already then. He wanted to be involved. The Rebbe said, your hands are full of blood, you can't be involved. So that. So then before Shem asked Kasha and Rashi, so why didn't he buy 3 years earlier then? So they say he didn't buy it earlier is because then it would look bad. It would be like a Chil Hashem. You already bought it. Why is the Beis Hamikdash built? Constantly reminding everybody that David Melech is not in favor of the Rebbe. This way he delayed the purchase so he had no chiyuv to build the Beis Hamikdash yet, so nobody would have any tinies. Obviously, he gave him money, or maybe he didn't. I don't know. He works it out. I'm not sure. Abaye said, "He made another mistake. Only a kohen is protected by the mizbeach. Only while he's a functional. That's tamazeh. Now, why? There's another mistake that he made, as we've seen. But Gemara doesn't mention it. Is that he thought it applies. He wasn't a shaygig. He was amazing. He killed Avner deliberately. When is a mizbeach coated only by a shaygig? But I looked in the Gemara. We'll come back to this question in a minute. The Sod of Rome will make 3 mistakes. It says, and the Abish sort of came back from Edom, from the Sod of Edom, Chamas begodim, that like sullied their clothes. And it's a euphemism that the Abish had just killed the Malach. The Malach went running to a city called Betzra, and tell you what was the mistake that he made? He made a few mistakes. Why was he in Betzra, in the city of Betzra? Betzra, who go to Betzra, went to the wrong city. He thought Betzra and Betzra is the same city, which wasn't. And where exactly is Betzra? The machlekes, whether it's in Eretz Yisrael or whether it's in Chutz La'aretz. But if it's Chutz La'aretz, there is no Aron Mikla in Chutz La'aretz. On the other hand, Moshe will come and says, 3 more Aron Mikla will be built. In Canaan, in the 3 countries within, and Edom is one of those. So it will be. Who mazed? Clear the Gemara. That it only accepts a shagi, not a mazed. No, he killed Avner ben mazed. Why don't we mention it by Avner? There is actually a machlekes of shaynim. If the mizbeach is kailet only by shagi or mazed as well, and they want to bring an eye from the Gemara before, that's the shagi and mazed. And I don't remember how they framed for this Gemara here. But other ones say that Yoav thought that his main Abeda was killing Amsa. But Amsa he taka killed Belshaggig. It was Avner who killed Mazid. He thought when he killed him, Avner was right. Because Avner killed his brother, Yoav's brother, and he could have wounded his leg. You remember, he could have wounded him, instead he killed him. And he said if you were able to accurately find the 5th rib, then you could have just wounded my brother. Therefore you deserved to die. So Yoav thought that was not a problem. as a girl time, exactly. It's his brother. But what do you call it? With Amsa, he did the wrong thing. But there, he thought it was a shaggy, and that's why we don't bring up shaggy before. Then we'll continue. The last thing is that he's a malach. Malach doesn't get away with the same things that we get away with. Our board Mikla, like you know, see what it says in Mikla Shem, it says, remember the 42 additional cities that were added to the other Mikla. So Mikla Shem, that these these areas, these big parklands should be for the animals or the chusha for the assets or the whole chayasim. And all those things that keep them, sustain them to live. The chayim need you're not allowed to bury anyone. That's why they say before, when you bury someone till the kohen dies, some say it's a mitzvah to take it out. Others say even the shush because there might be an exception. We have a possibility there, so then they should remain there. It says Shama, look, you just say not bury anybody. This is clearly that what Shama that they do get buried there. It's a shiny the Gola Berachmana. The Taylor clearly said. Kishem Shekar to the city is Kailit, so to the Tchum, the boundary of the city is also Kailit. But Aminu will ask you a question. It says the Yoshabam. But you go back to Ramikla and you sit there. It says the Bryce clearly not the Tchum is included. What protects you? Only the city itself, and not the environment. There's a difference whether it's to be protecting. It protects the Tchum. But living, when the possible yashaba, you should live there. Living there is only in the city itself, not not in the boundary. Talking about a lot to live, tell me not to live in the outside the city. Let's go possible that outsiders in Madoisim Chutzino, you're not allowed to build anything outside, say 1,000 amas, or some say 2,000 amas. So what I need to tell me that the murderer shouldn't be sitting outside, living at the home. Take me to ask a question. Take me to saw the Mikas, let Mikas, you know, you make parkland, live in parkland. Oh, but I've shaded it's underground tunnels. They had tunnels ready to live underground. So he's allowed, as far as the Migrash is concerned, there's no problem. But as far as the Ora Mikla, the mitzvah of living in Ora Mikla, it has to be in the city itself. But say once he steps outside the Chum, remember learn the Ratzach Goyal Adam. It says a possibly the Goyal Adam finds him the Ratzach Goyal Adam and he murdered the Ratzach, the Goyal Adam. And the Pasuk says Ein Leidam, he's not guilty of anything. So there's two ways of understanding what Ratzach. The Goyal Adam kills the person, the murderer kills the B'shagi. He's innocent. The Goyal Adam is innocent. The word V'Ratzach is sort of in between passive and active. So way Rabbi Yossi learns is mitzvah b'yad Goyal Adam, and should be akoladim. V'Ratzach is like you should go ahead and murder. The Kira says there should be a Goyal Adam. The Chaladam either chayav nulav or ain't chayav nulav. My time is what's the logic? Miksiv im Ratzach, if he murdered him, it says V'Ratzach. Sounds like do it. But Kiva Miksiv Yirzach, do it. It says, and he did it. So that's the argument. How do you understand it? She stepped outside of the Tchum. A third opinion now. That if the Goyal Adam kills if the guy spent time in the Ora Miklat and then he left Ora Miklat and you kill that and the Goyal Adam killed him, the Goyal Adam gets killed. There's a command. What opinion is this? Like Rabbi Kibu. The Gemara says, "Who Tana?" There's a third opinion. Tanya, it says in Pasuk that these places should be Ora Miklat, and the Ritzech should not die ad amde lifnei edel mishpat until he goes to the mishpat. What is coming to television? It says, it says the murderer kills him. Yachal miyad straight away he's allowed to kill him, and he's innocent. Ad amde lifnei edel mishpat. Now he's not saying that the Goyal Adam can't kill the guy who was shaking. He's saying it. Kozman the Bezdin did not yet make a decision, determination. No, the other one said that's what he killed. As soon as he killed B'Shagig, mitzvah the shus the Goyal Adam to kill. The other says no, until ad the mishpat, until he stands in the court and they determine what he is. Only afterwards can the Goyal Adam go do whatever he has to do. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Kiva. Hi, ad the mishpat. My Dutch, what is Dash? And I'm a boy. Then you get Tanya. We learn. What do you do those with ad omnu fnei mishpat? He says it means menayim and head shorech shorish nefesh she'ein mamino yisrael ad sheyamed bezin acher, that they cannot be if they ain't nasa dayin. They need other dayanim. Amaloimed ad omnu fnei edel mishpat ad sheyamed bezin acher. They have to go to another court and say what they saw, even though they themselves are ruled. But I'm going to learn. Im yatzer yatzer, let's say because on the pasuk a double yatzer. If the Ritzeh goes out, that from the Aron Miklat, his life is on the line. Ain't that amazing? All we know is if he steps out deliberately. What about shaking? The guy didn't realize he was outside of the city boundaries. Benign, how do you know the girl dam still allowed to kill? How in the world does the girl dam know if the guy went out to shaking? Unless he has a conversation with him, the guy, and the conversation he can recognize, he can hear the guy thinks that he's still in town. But signage too, though. Yeah, but we don't know. Could be. Okay, then what was he doing outside the city? Okay, but Tadia, we learned elsewhere, B'mezid that B'shegig Goyla says elsewhere that B'mezid he can get killed, but B'shegig, you're not allowed to kill him. Says the Gemara, like Kash Hakam Adam, I mean, the machlekes is whether we're going. The machlekes is whether yotze is double speak, but means nothing, or it means actually whether he leaves the bezid, whether he leaves the shegig. We have two yotzes. I don't care why he went out, but kol makom he's liable. Says the Gemara. It makes more sense that the guy he started out he murdered somebody, he ends up in Golos. And now that and if he steps outside B'shegig, he should get killed. How can the second shegig be stricter than the first shegig? That the second shegig allows him to be killed when the first shegig says, okay, you killed somebody, and therefore all you do is get Golos. If he killed someone, Mezi, he get killed. If he killed someone, B'shegi, he goes to Golos. Ab Seifer Tosa, B'mezid and Nedig, and B'shegi Golos. That he does not, while he's a B'shegi, he does not, he have no right to kill him. Tani Chodev, we learned in one place. A father killed his own son. Not teaching him Torah. We learned before that, that the father is potter, or even teaching him a trade. Stam. Or he killed his son, or we learned before of teaching him a trade, but not he doesn't need it for panos anymore. He already has another profession. Nasala Goyladam, his brother comes as Goyladam. That's what it sounds like. The Tanya elsewhere ain't a Nasala Goyladam. That it seems like the brother cannot become a Goyladam. How can that be? If you hold it's a mitzvah, then even the son is allowed to kill his own father. If you hold it a shus, but you can't kill your own father. Sorry? Yeah, you're not allowed to hit your own father. You can't, if it's like we see right here, but we'll ask the question, does it make sense? Mishadi, can a son kill his own father? All of the following things, the Ben cannot become a shliach for the bezin, to hit him, the curse him, except the father's a mason. Eloi Kasha. This is very important to Gemara, and something nothing to do with our whole sugya, and that is his own son cannot take revenge for his brother's death and kill his father because of this problem. But his son's son, his grandson, can kill the grandfather to take the numbers. The son of the victim can avenge his father's death by killing his grandfather. And Rashi says over here, a pella, the Einu Muzak Voida. So Rashi passed it clearly that there's no mitzvah of honoring a grandfather. And that's very odd because in Rashi and Chumash, the Ramah Shulchan Aruch brings, at the end of Reish Beis, I think it is here or there, he says that it's a mitzvah to honor your grandfather. And the whole basis is a Rashi and Chumash, which is odd because Rashi is a Parshan. And yet the Ramah brings Rashi and Chumash, which is exactly the opposite of Rashi here. Exactly the opposite of Rashi here. Then we had the end of Saita. We'll have an end of Saita. What is it, Kolkach? Oh, in Saita, it's what Rashi says. inside the last daf, the Rashi says that he had this very nice drink over there, and his grandson took it, didn't share anything, and he said, "Oh, my grandfather doesn't respect me as much as my son, as much kolkach." So there's still mitzvah kibbutz, but it's a step lower. Here Rashi says at all, ain't no avoiding. And I'm interesting that the Gilin Shash points to alludes to other things, doesn't allude to this at all. Anyway, then Mishnah, you have a tree inside the tchum of inside the boundary of this property, but the branch is outside the property. Or the tree, the trunk of the tree itself is outside the property, but the branch is inside the tchum. So the question is, what's the status of this tree? If this Reitzeach is there, sitting on the branch, sitting on the trunk, what's the situation? According to our Mishnah, you always go after the branch, because that's where you get the most sustenance. What do you gain from the trunk? It's the branch. It gives you shade and everything else. So whatever the branch is. So if the branch is, it seems it's like this at this stage. If the branch is inside the miklat, even if it's sitting on the trunk on the outside, you cannot touch me. I'm untouchable. If the branch is outside, even if I'm sitting inside the miklat, sitting on the trunk, I'm touchable, because you follow the status of the branch. That's what it seems. Freddy Maramino has a question. It says regarding Ma'aser Sheni, if there's a tree that is befnim, the tree is inside the shalayim. Ma'aser Sheni can only be in the shalayim. And once you're shalayim, you cannot redeem it anymore. You can only redeem it on the way to Yerushalayim. And so, what's it in this case here, where the tree is inside Yerushalayim, the night of the chutz, and what do you call it? And the branch is outside Yerushalayim. So the trees outside the line, but the branches are inside the line. So there clearly says depends. We don't look at the branch of the tree. You make this imaginary wall there, go upwards, and make and the simple. Very we divide the tree. Maisa, what are you asking one another? Maisa, all it has to do is the inside the environment of the shalayim or not. So I don't care what part of the tree is. Or the miklat bedida tolachman, right? It says that you have to live there. Well, living, you live. People enjoy the shade of the tree. The noifay mizdalei, the ikaralei mizdalei. When you live, your living is with a branch, with a tree, with the branches, not with the trunk itself. So, yeah, but that's not somewhere I live. I live. In order for me to live, I enjoy the shade from the tree. I don't have anything from the trunk and the roots and all that. So the Gemara, okay, but I mean, was a question from one place in Maisa is not the Maisa. It says, but Isa in Yerushalayim you go after the branch, and but the miklat halachachar noif, and the miklat of the branches clearly by Maisa here. Okay, or the miklat of the branches on Mishnah. But by Maisa, before you say you just divide it equally, you just divide it according to the tree. It says it's you go after the branch. We learned Rabbi Yehuda says talking about Maisa b'Mayra in a cave. Let's say that the entire cave is inside Yerushalayim, but the entrance to the cave is outside Yerushalayim. Then we treat it as outside Yerushalayim. Look at where the entrance is. And so you go after whichever the entrance is. But the Elon, when it comes to a tree, when it comes to a tree, you go after its branch. So clearly it says here that's Sabuda. By Maisa, you go after the branch. That's the price who argues with the other price that says he divided in half. That's the Rabban. So when the aim of the Shabbat got a Maisa, all we know from Yehuda is by Maisa is l'chumra. We always follow the chumra. As far as dinim which are chumra, we're not going to use it l'kula. What do you mean? For example, ikre b'chutz, so the trees outside the shalayim and neifer b'fnim and the branches inside, we'll say that we'll follow the branch in this case, and we're going to be machmer. Because in Yerushalayim, you cannot redeem it unless it's tummy. Otherwise, you cannot redeem it. You have to eat it, or they used to give it out to all the people who live in Yerushalayim. Is bikarei nami lematzi parik. So too the trunk. If you're on the trunk on the outside, you can no longer redeem it. So that's a chumrah. And then the other way around, Ikare b'fnim, if the ikar is in Yerushalayim, the noifa b'chutz, and the knife is outside of Yerushalayim. So we said before, you go after Rabbi Yudis, says you go after the knife. If ki heicha de b'noifa, again a chumrah. What's the chumrah? The knife is outside Shalim. You can't eat it while it's outside Shalim. You cannot eat it unless you first redeem it. Even though it's in Yerushalayim, we'll say you cannot eat it unless you redeem it. So in other words, we only use this din of naifai where there's a chumrah involved. We're not going to use it in a kuldik way. We're not going to say that since the branch is in Yerushalayim and you're allowed to eat in Yerushalayim, so you can eat outside on sitting on the trunk. No, we don't say that at all. Yeah. Ella Gabi Ode Mikla, but by Ode Mikla, you're telling me we follow knife, right? We're comparing the two in the Braisa. With Maisa. But by Ode Mikla, we're using it as a kula. We're using it as a kula that what? That the guy's protected. Bishlay may ikar. If you say the ik is a chut the knife b'fnim, we say that what? Ki heicha the b'knife lematze katle b'ikar nami lematze katle. He cannot be killed. Okay, we consider that a chumrah, I guess. So the goy adam cannot carry out what he had to do. He cannot touch the guy. He's untouchable because the knife is inside the city, and even though the ikara is outside the city and the retzech is sitting on the ikara, he's protected. But the ikar is inside the city, and the knife is outside the city, and you tell me that what? That this allows the goyel adam to not only kill the guy when he's sitting by the branches, but even if he's inside the city, sitting on the ikar, you can kill him. That's a kula for the goyel adam. He's inside. The fact he's inside a mikvah, then use him for kula. What do you say by ma'asim? When we use knife, we're saying in case of a chumrah, and here you use knife by a mikvah in a case which is a kula. Omar Rava says Rava be kore the kuli amal pligi the matikol. Everyone agrees if you're inside the mikvah, you can't touch him. Yeah. If you're sitting inside the what do you call it, the mikvah, you cannot touch it. It's untouchable. We're not going to use the lakul and say, oh, because the knife is outside, we'll allow the goyel adam to enter the city and kill him. That we're not going to do. But what about koy knife? He's standing by the branch. The yachol harge bechitza, so you can kill him from a distance. You can kill him. Keep pligi. They're arguing if the only way to get to the branch is through the ikar, do we say that the ikar now is considered part of the branch or not? That the ikar becomes a step to the branch. If the only way to get to use the branch is by stepping on the ikar, so then maybe the ikar is considered a stepway to the branch. It's considered part of the branch and it follows the halachas of the branch. We don't say that the ikar is that the trunk is mamish part of the knife. It's considered separate. If he's inside the city, he's untouchable. Even though that the only way to get to the knife is through the ikar, it does not become subordinate or secondary to the branch. What do you mean achra knife? Af achra knife. It doesn't mean only. It means only when it's l'chumrah. Only in the case with the chumrah that will say that what that the goyel adam, what do you call it? The goyel adam cannot kill him. So if the knife, for example, is inside the city and the ikar is outside the city, we'll follow the knife and the goyel adam cannot touch the chumrah. But the other way around, if the knife is outside and the ikar is inside, they say the goyel adam can enter. No, we're not. So af achar knife. We use it sometimes. We'll follow the branch. Where is the chumrah?